really believe that from my observation of people with the spectrum, abilities, and I call them spectrum abilities,
Yes.
they have abilities usually that excel in another, but they're not always appreciated and understood, like you said.
Correct.
I have a young boy who has got supposedly autism, and yet he can read unbelievably fast, but he wasn't able to tie his shoes and wasn't able to speak, and he wasn't able to read or write, but he can read a book and unbelievable content. But he would communicate by a device, pointing his fingers at a bunch of letters and numbers.
Yes.
But wow, what a genius in his learning. So sometimes they have a heightened ability and maybe a lessened ability in certain areas, but we want to find out where they excel.
Correct.
And honor their excellence. Correct. Instead of focusing on where they're not. Correct. That's a very important component.
Our finding is, we speak to parents a lot, and we find that they're forced into certain behavior and how to treat their children, which is basically forced on by society, because they live in this fear of judgment. If they go out with their child and their child has a meltdown, then they're not able to control these meltdowns, and they feel that they're being judged by the other parents and other people saying, oh, you cannot control your child. It's this attitude and the struggle that the parents go through, that rather than embrace their child and help them through the difficulties, they conform to society's values and try and bring their children up into the ways that society expects them to. Do you mentioned your mother gave you this unconditional love, and this is that support that you had that helped you grow. My advice to parents obviously is always love your child unconditionally, support him as much as you can. Is there anything when you were younger, before your mother encouraged you and you got to that point, especially in your elementary school, and we're finding a lot of parents are struggling? In our Facebook group, we find that their questions are a lot between the ages of 3 and 7 or 8. And this is where they're finding a big struggle. What do you wish your parents had done differently, if anything? Or what advice do you have for parents who have children between the ages of 3 and 6?
I don't believe my parents need to do anything different. I was very grateful for my parents the way they are. I wouldn't change a thing in my own experience. I think they were responding to what was being told, and they were acting in love, and I wouldn't change anything. I am who I am today, and I'm grateful for that. So I don't have anything to fix or look back at. I always say anything you're not grateful for is baggage. Anything you're grateful for is fuel.
Correct. Yes.
So I'm a firm believer in looking back at whatever's happened and see it on the way, not in the way. Correct. But many times we have wounds in our own life, and they're carried forward into our adulthood. And it's because we have chosen to see an event maybe for the downsides and not the upsides. And then we feel maybe resentful or shamed by some of these experiences. And then we want to protect our child and project onto our child our wounds. And sometimes we call that caring, but sometimes that's actually just projecting. And I think it's wise for a parent to reflect and introspect and make sure they're not reacting based on their own wounds, or reacting, subordinating to an idealism in society that's of the herd, the majority, instead of the uniqueness of the child.
Yes.
Every child has a unique set of values, set of priorities that allow that child to be like a fingerprint specific, unique individual. And whatever is highest on the child's values is where they're going to excel. And taking the time to care about the child, to find out what the child's unique highest values are, and allowing them to excel in that area, and linking other information that you feel will be, as a parent, helpful to them to that respectfully, like a salesperson communicating respectfully in the customer's values, will help the child empower and engage and expand and absorb more information. Children want to learn spontaneously. They just want to learn what's important to them. And if we respect them enough to communicate what we want them to learn in terms of what they want to learn, they're adaptive and they'll take it in and they'll absorb it and expand.
Yes.
So even children that have a spectrum label, if you look carefully, there's something they love doing. There's something they love learning. They love exploring.
That is definite, because autistic people, they focus on certain things. And when they become obsessed about something, people look at it as a special interest. Meantime, normal people are considered as having a hobby. So instead of singling out that thing that they do or that interest and create it as an obsession, rather, I think parents should nurture it. That can even become a career, rather than think of it just as a special interest. I think that you can expand more on that, because parents need to understand that that special interest is actually congruent to who they can ultimately become.
That's exactly, you know, what you're saying is exactly what Socrates and Plato and Einstein recommended, to find the gift that they are blessed with and nurture the what they're inspired by. You know, there was an autistic child, Jacob Barnett, who loved drawing on the window with his finger and was writing numbers on the thing, on the window. And at first, instead of making him wrong and, you know, go to your room kind of thing, she said, what are you drawing? And he loved numbers. So she started getting him little books on numbers, mathematical books, and then gradually more advanced mathematical books. And he started absorbing this math. And even though he was so-called, you know, labeled this autistic spectral state, he ended up ending up at the Perimeter Institute in astrophysics by the time he was a young teenager, getting his PhD.
That's amazing.
And they thought, you know, that he had a problem. It turned out that he had a highly concentrated value system, and the mother finally realized that and honored that and fed that. And then it bloomed, and he became excellent and super high achieving in that area.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
I think we don't want to compare our children to anybody else.
No.
We want to go and find out what their highest priority is and help them where they are spontaneously inspired from within to act, and then expand that and assist them in finding a way of making a contribution to humanity through that. Yes, and I think that's I mean, sometimes it's art, sometimes it's mathematics, it's maybe music, and maybe it could be anything.
Correct.